Well, I guess since I have a YouTube channel, I may as well try out different video styles and see what people think. And I guess I figure I should talk about something that's getting a lot of headlines lately. That Powerpuff Girls reboot. Well, the Powerpuff Girls reboot has been getting a lot of attention. Hasn't been very good, but it's been attention. Almost every review I see of the Powerpuff Girls is pointing out something negative or wrong with the show, which is kind of amazing when you consider usually reviewers are a bit more lenient with shows, but this has a lot of flaws in it and it's very noticeable. Whether it's the animation errors, the horrible meme jokes, or just the overall bad quality of the episodes. And that's what we're going to talk about, the horrible episodes. Maybe the worst one so far, and trust me, it's gonna be hard to top it. Horn, sweet horn. Yay! I'm the Rise and Fall of Nickelodeon, and it's time to review this piece of trash. So we start out the episode with everybody at a Townsville zoo, yay. And Buttercup of course asks where the unicorns are, which causes all of the badly drawn background characters who don't look like they even belong in the show to laugh and ridicule her. Except for this one kid who believes Bigfoot exists and wears an Illuminati shirt. Okay. After that, Bubbles goes and cries and blows her unicorn kazoo whistle thing that she says makes unicorns appear, and apparently one does. Yeah. She gets all excited and the girls point out that the unicorn is fake, and that causes the unicorn to start talking. The unicorn, who is a horse named Donnie, I don't like you, actually wants to be a unicorn. So he's picked on and ridiculed for it, just like Bubbles is picked on and ridiculed for wanting to believe unicorns are real. So obviously the solution is for Bubbles to go into some sort of orgasmic revenge-filled fantasy about unicorns being real and everybody being wrong. Because that sounds like Bubbles. Yeah. So Donnie and Bubbles go to the professor to see if they can turn Donnie into a unicorn, because that's what they both seem to want, I guess. So after that we get a meaningless transition to the Townsville Pickle Museum that I guess was just built, and it just happens because I guess they needed a transition, and this is the transition they picked. It's horrible. And the reason I'm glancing over is because, why should I care? It's only here because of plot convenience, and it's only going to be used as a plot device. But there is one thing I should bring up. Pickle boobs. Really? Miss Bellum's kicked out of the show for not fitting the message, and you got rid of Miss Keene's breasts, but pickle boobs are okay? Anyway, back to the professor. The professor is talking about a ray he conveniently made to transform things into other things. I don't really care at this point. And Bubbles says she really, really needs this. Like, really needs this. And here's something that really bugs me. What the hell is Bubbles' problem in this episode? Why does she care what people think of her? She's never been one to really care about what other people think. Yes, she's let people get to her. She's had episodes in the old show where people have gotten to her and she's done things. But to really care this much, to want to forcefully change somebody, is kinda weird. It feels like it should be something Buttercup does. But then again, Buttercup's been over-flanderized in the show as it is, and overexposed. So I guess they just decided to throw Buttercup a horrible bone because that's what this is. So Donnie, of course, trusts Bubbles completely. Why not? Why not trust the person you just met with something that could physically change your life forever? I would. Yeah. So the professor gives him a whole bunch of warning sheets and papers and things that could go wrong, and Donnie, being the airheaded moron that he is, doesn't read any, skims it, and signs it. Boy, you trust somebody you just met with this procedure and you don't even read the consequences. That's great. That's just... So the procedure happens and Donnie turns into a monster. This is where we should probably bring up the giant elephant in the room. The creators of the show really touted this episode as being a very important and special one that they were very proud of. An episode of self-discovery and identity. basically the underlying message of transgenderism and being comfortable in your own skin. And this is where it completely goes wrong and the moral gets completely screwed up the ass. Donnie turns into a monster. He changes himself, and in doing so, the moral gets really cloudy and really muddled. What are they trying to say here? That Donnie turning into a monster means that if you change yourself into something that you aren't or you want to be, it's going to lead to horrible choices? Because that's what this looks like. And it's not good, and that's why this episode is probably the most hated one so far. But it's not even over yet. And that's the worst part. So anyway, he bursts out a wall, and Bubbles follows him, realizing, hey, maybe I was kind of an asshole too. Even though they're both kind of assholes, and it's hard to root for anybody in this episode, or root for anything, except for maybe it to end. And she follows Donnie out into the town, and leaves her sisters and the professor there, which leads the professor to say, who doesn't like science? Because, of course, Donnie smashes the ray and says he hates science after being turned into a monster, and that's, of course, you know, funny jokes. Back to the episode, we see that the more Donnie thinks of himself as a freak, the bigger he grows and the more monster-like he becomes. And remember how I told you that that stupid skyscraper pickle museum was going to just be there for a plot contrivance? Well, yeah, I was right. And hey, we get a King Kong reference, just to be topical, right? Because everything about this show has been goddamn topical enough as it is with the meme humor and whatever else the hell they try to throw in there. Might as well throw Donkey Kong in there, or King Kong, or whatever Kong you want to throw in there. Who the hell cares? So Bubbles finds Donnie, and Donnie still considers himself a freak, again calling back to that great moral the creators are trying to get across, and calls Bubbles no longer his best friend forever, even though, again, you just met today. Why did you put your faith in somebody you just met today to get this whole procedure done? This impossible procedure that, again, was laid out right in front of you, that you just skimmed over. Why the hell is this so horribly written? But of course it doesn't end there, because I just have to suffer more. Donnie climbs the skyscraper, Bubbles follows him, and they have a heart-to-heart on the roof. Donnie basically says he's a freak, and he will never be a unicorn, and unicorns aren't real, and all this schmaltz. And Bubbles brings out the unicorn kazoo and blows it, and says because he showed up, he's a unicorn at heart, and you should be yourself, and you should, I don't care anymore. And I guess Donnie's had enough of this BS too, because he basically backfists Bubbles into another dimension. But then he realizes, oh no, I made a bad, and falls off the roof. But Mayor's okay, because he has a pickle of parachutes. That's great. And Donnie apparently falls to his death. Yeah, because they're definitely going to have death in this show, right? Yeah. Now, up to this point, you've seen a misconstrued moral, horrible characters, horrible character development, horrible character interaction, horrible mistimed jokes, topical humor, and overall, just a horrible, horrible episode. So how do you crap off this crap fest? Well, I'll tell you. Donnie is magically okay and turned back into a horse. How? Unicorns appear out of freaking nowhere. The unicorns say they were summoned by Bubbles' bullshit kazoo, and said they would have been there sooner if the male stallion would have asked for directions. But he said he knew a shortcut. Stallions, am I right? So Donnie's fine and they make up, and the episode really should just end here, with Donnie basically staying true to himself and being a unicorn at heart. But of course, it doesn't. Donnie's mother shows up in the unicorn pack, and just, you know, casually reveals that Donnie has now gone through a trip of self-discovery, and she reveals that not only is she a unicorn, but he has been a unicorn this entire goddamn time! So not only was the moral completely destroyed, not only was this a cop-out beyond all imaginable recognition, but nobody in the world, not even the goddamn horse that had the horn, realized that there was a horn there. A magical horn. It was just completely overlooked, right? Nobody looked. Nobody cared. Nobody honestly cared in this episode. Do you see that? Because I sure do. This episode is goddamn shit! But let's bring up another fact that people seem to overlook with this episode. How the hell does the mother just look at her son get picked on by other horses because he wants to be a unicorn and not say anything about it? You know he's a unicorn, he's too dense to realize he has a goddamn horn under his head, and you don't say anything? You're a bitch. Anyway, the episode thankfully ends, and do you even care what happens next? Of course you don't. This episode is goddamn shit. And let me tell you, the Powerpuff Girls reboot really doesn't have much else redeeming about it. I admit that there are good moments that I've seen from the show, and I've liked moments from the show. Some characters are fine, some moments are fine. But overall, in the end, you can just see that with the overwhelming hatred for the show or just negativity towards it, the mistakes that are being pointed out, everything being pointed out from the show that is just overall needing to be fixed or just a problem. And this is probably the biggest one. The creators had the goal to build this up as some sort of important or special episode, when in the end it was so muddled down and the moral was so goddamn confused that by the end, I didn't know what to think. Nobody knew what to think. I know some of my friends actually quit watching the show after this episode. It was that goddamn insulting. But overall, it was just a mess. From beginning to end. Unicorn wants to be a unicorn. Unicorn changes himself to become a monster. And then, in the end, he's back normal and he was a unicorn all along. What kind of a moral were you guys trying to write? Because it wasn't one about transgenderism, and it wasn't one about identity and being comfortable in your own skin. This was bullshit. And this is the kind of laziness and overall obliviousness that this reboot keeps showing. Whether it's animation errors, writing, horrible voice acting at points. Just overall, nobody seems to care. And it's just pitiful. And overall, I just really hate to see it. I hate to see that Craig McCracken has to watch this. I hate to see the other staff members who created this show have to watch these people who think they know better completely muddle down what made the show popular and made the show good. Because crap like this is what's bringing it down. There are moments where the show can be decent, but when this shit happens, nobody cares. When they keep having animation errors, and horrible meme humor, and twerking, and episodes like this that completely can't get a moral right, and they tout it up like they are getting the moral right, and they completely know what they're doing. It's a complete and utter mess. I want to give the Powerpuff Girls reboot more of a chance, but with this, I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to much longer. They just don't seem to know what they're doing. I don't know if they want to change, and overall, it just seems lazy. It just seems so forced out. Everything about it just seems like a giant mess. They had 2 years to make this good, and they made it a giant mess with their own decisions and their own idiotic tendencies. We'll see what the future holds for it, and if you like the show, more power to you. This is just my opinion, and overall, I thought this episode was bad, and it was a horrible blow to overall my confidence and others' confidence with the reboot, which only seemed to get worse with episodes that went on. But it still has a lot more episodes to go, so maybe it'll improve. But for now, my God, what the hell were you guys thinking? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the review, and I hope you enjoyed this style. Let me know, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that junk. Tell me what you think. We'll see what happens with this channel, and we'll see what more reviews come out. If I get inspired, I might make another, and we'll see what happens down the road. Anyways, I'm the Rise and Fall of Nickelodeon, and there were 5 goddamn people on this episode? Are you kidding me? So after reviewing Horn Sweet Horn from the Powerpuff Girls reboot, I got to thinking, were there any episodes out there animation-wise that offended me more in terms of plot contrivance and overall annoyance? Well, unfortunately, my brain dredged up an answer. Arnold betrays Iggy. Ugh. First off, I love Hey Arnold. It's my second favorite Nickelodeon show of all time, and it's finally getting a justified ending, which I'm also really excited for. What Arnold betrays Iggy is, I don't even know how to describe it. It doesn't even feel like the same show. In many regards, it's the worst episode of the entire series, and it's easy to see why, when this episode led to the creator not only making anyone on staff on the episode issue a public apology, but basically killed Iggy as a character. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take a look at this episode, shall we? Also, RIP to Steve Bixton. I don't hold this episode against you. Everyone has their dark moments. This was yours. So we start this episode out with Arnold, Stinky, and Sid. Stinky and Sid are reoccurring characters who would go on to have more major roles in the show later on, including their own plot-centric episodes. Both are good characters in their own way, however in this episode they are their literal worst. And this started off swimmingly with them just going on and on about Iggy, how cool he is, how great he is. Stinky must say he's so cool about 6 times in the scene, if not more. Show, don't tell. It's a key rule of writing, and they broke it straight away. Chances are, if you have to tell your audience how cool or perfect a character is, it's not gonna work. Trust me, I've seen it. This year. Ugh. So Arnold's job in this episode, and only thing he basically does, keep that in mind, is deliver homework to a sick, super cool though, Iggy at his house, and upon entering we are greeted with Iggy. And the plot device for this episode. Bunny pajamas. Yes, Iggy wears bunny pajamas. Do you see that? Do you really? Because trust me, it's very important that you remember this fact, because Iggy sure wears bunny pajamas. To cut this scene short, Iggy basically throws a fit because he has contradicted the 8 times Stinky said he was cool, and basically begs Arnold to keep this a secret. Arnold laughs it off, but promises to do so. Fair enough, right? Anyone would have a little laugh at seeing someone basically in that frickin' getup. Scene ends, but the episode doesn't. Oh, it doesn't. So the next day, Sid and Stinky prod Arnold about super cool Iggy, and Arnold basically can't contain himself at the memory. He keeps it a secret still and basically just says it was something Iggy was wearing and makes him laugh. And I shit you not, the line that comes out of Sid's mouth is, "It's not like he was wearing bunny pajamas." Arnold hesitates, and that's enough for Sid and Stinky to take this as gospel. And they now know Iggy wears bunny pajamas. There is plot contrivance, and then there is whatever the hell this scene was. Arnold not only didn't flat out tell them, but of all things to guess clothing-wise, bunny pajamas is the 3rd thing they guess. That's not convenience, that's not coincidence, that's just horrid writing for the sole purpose of moving the plot along. And it moves along. Badly. Arnold asks them not to tell anyone, but they do because they're dipshits. The whole school, as a matter of fact. And here's where the plot completely goes so overbearing that it's really hard to talk about it in detail until the climax. Essentially, the school mocks Iggy for this, and his popularity is ruined. And he, of course, blames Arnold and basically won't listen to anything he says, and we are supposed to feel sympathy for Iggy in this dilemma. And at the moment, sure, I guess it's reasonable, even though it's completely contrived shit. However, there is such a thing called abuse of sympathy, and this episode does that really, really well. And it may be the only thing it sadly does well. So Arnold is faced with a moral dilemma. Again, this is showing guilt to the situation. He legitimately feels bad for what he's done to Iggy because he didn't mean it. He's Arnold, of course he wouldn't. So he gets advice from Grandpa Phil about the situation, and he brings up the bunny pajamas, and even he is laughing at it. I don't get it. Bunny pajamas are the most hilarious thing in this town? It really must be dull because every character seems to endlessly crack up about it. I don't have an explanation, and I don't think there is one. Bunny pajamas. Laugh. So Grandpa basically tells Arnold to try and explain the situation, and if that doesn't work, maybe buy his forgiveness. Essentially try and smooth the situation over and prove that you want to show you're sorry. So he attempts this, by apologizing, and even giving a gift. But it doesn't work. What really is off-putting about this scene is Iggy isn't really shown throughout the episode to be really bothered by this whole ordeal. He just has this stone stoicness about him, and he directs all of his hatred at Arnold and no one else. And already it's getting annoying here, but it's far from over. Arnold continues trying to smooth this over while Iggy continues this smug, standoffish routine. And the more he does it, the more his face seems more punchable. But the heckling continues, and even we see Gerald laughing in the background at it. This episode really isn't good for anyone, but especially to see Gerald laughing at this, when he of all people, being Arnold's best friend, should understand it's hurting Arnold as much as Iggy, it's a really shitty move. So Iggy won't forgive Arnold, and these two jackasses think that maybe Iggy is taking this too hard, and maybe something should be done. But they figure it won't last forever. And then a year passes. Yeah, a year. A year of this BS. This was long before social media, long before lasting impressions could be had. Guest hearsay from two kids' mouths is able to last a ferocity against someone for a year. Either that, or Iggy has just decided to hold a grudge this long, in which case, sympathy for the character is really ruined. So Arnold says he'll do Iggy's chores for a week, again, showing guilt, showing he cares, and wants to atone for this screw-up. So he does it. Arnold does this bastard's chores, being the bigger man, showing that he is willing to work for an apology, and he still doesn't give him it. You know what? Screw this character, okay? Screw him. You're basically putting down Arnold every step of the way this episode for basically no reason. He's shown how sorry he is multiple times, and it's gone from reasonable anger to pettiness and bitterness that Iggy is holding on to because he seemingly has nothing better to do. He's not showing emotional damage from this. He just looks like a normal kid. He's acting like a normal kid. He's only blaming Arnold seemingly for not keeping his promise, for breaking his trust. Trust of a kid he barely knows. And this sucks, and it drags the whole episode down. Hard. At this point, they basically lost everything with the plot as it is, but now is when the episode gets to its worst point. The end. So Iggy's grand plan of forgiveness is making Arnold strut out on a runway in a bunny suit to be humiliated because, quote-unquote, it's the only way he'll know how Iggy felt. No. Okay? Hell no. This is the most BS thing I've ever seen. Iggy was ridiculed, yes, by his peers. This is basic exploitation and humiliation of Arnold in front of the whole town. Recorded on video, it is nowhere near the same thing that Iggy went through, at all, in any capacity. This is a sick, orgasmic, revenge-filled fantasy that nobody asked for, but it's treated as such. He's treated like the hero, and Arnold is treated like the villain. By everybody. Why did the whole town and news crew show up for this? Is this seriously a monumental occasion in the town? Does this kid have this much pull? Even Grandpa is ready to demean his own grandson. What the hell is going on here? Seriously, screw this. But somehow, it gets worse. In one last act of contrivance for the plot, Sid and Stinky, who just so happened to be next to Iggy, just so happened to say it was their fault that the bunny pajamas thing was leaked. They drug it out of Arnold, and it was their fault. Another thing this plot did wrong, the true antagonists, Sid and Stinky, go completely unpunished. They just have their fill and laughs at everyone else's expense and cause this whole mess, and yet they aren't the ones punished for this episode. We all are. And then it happens. One of the most hard-to-watch scenes in animation history. Arnold walking out in slow motion in a bunny suit, completely humiliated by everyone, laughing and mocking him as Iggy is forced to watch how much of a jackass he has come to fruition. And it's just so hard to watch. Even to this day, knowing what Arnold went through, even with an older mind, and seeing what he's gone through now, someone who tried so hard to get forgiveness out of someone who basically did not deserve it. And going back to how they seem to make their mission to make everyone a dick, they include Stoop Kid in the background. How could you do that? Stoop Kid was such an influential part of the show, even though he was only in one episode as a main character. His life is basically owed to Arnold. So, he wouldn't be there, ridiculing him. This is shit. What, is Pigeon Man gonna swoop down and shit on Arnold's face next? Because that's what it seems like is gonna happen. Anyway, ending this scene, it's hard. It's one of the worst scenes you will ever see in a show. Especially a good show, where you know the show is better than this. It's uncomfortable knowing that a whole town, including adults, will come and tape a kid in a bunny suit being humiliated. But it's even worse knowing that it was all for absolutely nothing. And the episode ends, and the roles are reversed. Iggy trying to apologize, but Arnold is simply not having it. Can you blame him? I can't. This episode was a pile of hot garbage, and Iggy suffered for it by never being the focus of an episode ever again. The grand debut, a lasting impact. Not for good reasons. Arnold betrays Iggy may not have the big misconstrued moral that Horn Sweet Horn did, but it has its own special set of problems. That show, hey, not everything from the 90s was golden goose, and this is one of the prime examples. Iggy is one of the most unlikable characters, maybe ever. He's put up against Arnold as a debuting character, someone we know, trust, love, and basically back in a situation. When we see Arnold trying to make this right and things going wrong for him, it's just a hard domino effect that all started because he was just delivering Iggy's homework. So remember, kids, good deeds will backfire on you, I guess. That's what I got from this episode. Dad and Vixen may have some childhood issues to think not only this fit the tone of the show, but was an okay plot to write. As an aspiring writer, I can tell you, this may be one of the biggest examples of how not to write an episode. Arnold betrays Iggy is a black stain on an otherwise golden show, but it shows out everything is always perfect, especially if the writing isn't there. It can ruin a character almost immediately. First impressions are everything, and this was Iggy's last, and Craig Bartlett made sure of that. A PSA to creators, stop making episodes where other characters suffer and the instigators are never punished, because it's dumb and I'm sick of seeing it. You hear that, Casey Alexander? It never works, and it just looks outright incompetent. Like two kids guessing another wears bunny pajamas, for example, and ruining somebody's life in the process. Asshats. Anyway, that's it for this review. Hope you like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy these reviews. We'll see what I come up with next and when. All depends on the inspiration, but I appreciate the feedback. I know my audio isn't the best and my equipment isn't the best, but I try to entertain you guys, and I know you appreciate it. Until next time, I'm the Rise and Fall of Nickelodeon, and screw you, Iggy. So I've been reviewing and getting some bad news cartoon-wise lately, so I guess it's time to just take a step back and breathe. So that is what I'm going to do, by taking a look at something I like this time, when it comes to not only an episode, but a show in general. The Amazing World of Gumball. This show started out mediocre, admittedly. The animated world was a bit clunky, but by maybe the middle of season 2 it all came together in such a phenomenal way. The humor of the show has gotten so good that it can only go head to head with about any classic cartoon or cartoon going on today, whether it's 90s humor or modern humor, and that's not an exaggeration. The timing and writing of the show is absolutely phenomenal. It's one of those shows that really deserves more attention, and that's what I'm going to give it. With one of the greatest animated fourth wall breaks of all time, the money. We start out with Gumball giving a speech about freedom and not being tied down or selling out, before saying that yes, he will have fries with that order. This show again is really good at comedic timing. The show has so many great jokes that I'm really not going to cover a lot of them in this review because you honestly should watch the episode and see them. And the review might be double the time. Anyway, when paying their fast food order, the credit card gets declined. The finger's pointed at Richard, the dad and sort of token dumb parent of the show, but there's more to him than that. But in this episode, his short-sightedness really does move the plot along. He says he puts all the money in an offshore bank account, literally, and this causes a great Hulk reference, before the Wattersons realize they have gone completely broke. Larry comes up with a solution that Joyful Burger is actually doing a commercial for their brand today, and it would be the ideal family for it, and get paid. Gumball, however, akins back to the beginning of the episode saying that the Wattersons don't sell out, before metaphorically lighting the contract on fire. To Gumball's amazement, his family actually agrees with his morality, and they don't take the job, but they go home broke. And that is where we get the meat of this episode. No money. Gumball shrieks in horror at there being no food. The power goes out because they don't have any money for the electric bill, which leads to some funny gags when the light actually passes in the scene. So everything's getting repossessed, and Nicole actually puts together such a long insult, I swear that they got inspiration from the Nostalgia Critic's insult to Angry Video Game Nerd. If not, I'd be surprised. So yeah, everything's getting repossessed, and the house is now left empty. At this point, morale is pretty low with the Wattersons. Gumball's trying to stick to his principles, but it's fading fast. So Gumball says they don't need any of that stuff, as long as they have, help me out here, SpongeBob, imagination. A song number with some really awesome visuals break out as Gumball tries to convince the family to imaginate with him, even if it isn't a real word according to Anais. Seriously, the creativity with these visuals is really great. As the song goes though, The family turns the tables on him and basically imaginates that he gets the crap kicked out of him, venting their own frustrations at his refusal to give in to the fact they're losing everything. The family at this point is trying to show him advertisement isn't that bad through a couple of different ways. Subtle, tasteful, not selling out doesn't mean you're a corporate puppet, or just doing a commercial in Japan a la Mr. Sparkle. I love this show's animation so much. But Gumball refuses once more, and when he says they have nothing left to lose, they lose their house, and now they have nothing. And now, we finally get to the part of the episode I have been dying to talk about. Without any money, not only does the Watterson family not have any way to sustain themselves, neither does the show. And without any money, the show begins to beautifully fall apart, piece by animated piece. It is at this point they figure they need to do that commercial or basically fade away from existence. I really could talk about what transpires next for hours. Not since Chowder's "No Animation" scene has something broken the fourth wall, not only so hard but so amazingly, and they go above and beyond what Chowder did. The animation just continues to degenerate. I have friends in the field of animation and they absolutely loved how much they degenerated the animation, to screwing up the rigs and glitching the worlds, so much effort put into basically screwing up the entire show. And it goes from screwing up the place to going to the show's actual storyboard. So we basically see how the episode of Gumball is constructed in reverse. It's absolutely amazing. My freeze frames for this scene are not going to do justice to what an amazing moment in animation history this actually is. If you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favor and do so. Wrapping up the episode, the Wattersons sign the contract. Gumball makes one last plea that this can't be the only way, and there must be a way to survive without selling out, but Larry shows how much they are paying, and the next scene is them doing the commercial, which is hilariously stereotypical, and the episode ends. If you love anything animation-wise, I implore you to give not only this episode a watch, but Amazing World of Gumball a chance. The show is on another level from when it started. Where it started wasn't bad, but where it is now, it's maybe one of the funniest and most creative cartoons you will ever see. And this episode proves that. This review only scratched the surface of what this episode and what this show continues to do with every new episode it brings out. Seriously, watch this show. Give it a chance. It shows that modern animation is just as good as that 90s stuff that a lot of us like to brag about. And just like the 90s, there were bad and there were good. And Gumball is that current good. That really, really current good. Or your money back guaranteed. I'm the Rise and Fall of Nickelodeon, and eat Joyful Burger, everybody.